Yuzu the Pet Vet. Have you heard of it? The answer is yes, because you read the title before clicking on this video. Unless you're a silly goose. Baka! Ooh! Hey! Manga Tuesday! G'day! I am the DRC, and welcome back to Manga Tuesday, episode 113, and today, as you already know, we shall be reviewing Yuzu the Pet Vet, created by Mingo Ito. Yuzu the Pet Vet is a pretty short series, only 7 volumes long. I read it pretty recently, and just to bottom line it for you, I quite enjoyed it very much so. So you can stop watching this video now, unless you're desiring to waste more of your time, in which case stick around and I'll give you a bit more of an in-depth thoughts about it. It focuses on a young girl, Yuzu, who is temporarily staying with her uncle, who is a vet and has his own veterinary clinic, and Yuzu is helping him out with some of the vet work. Each volume has 4 chapters, and each chapter is sort of its own little mini self-contained story for the most part. Obviously there's some ongoing things, and Yuzu and her uncle and her mother are characters that are present, throughout all chapters and have some development that carries across through chapter to chapter. But each new chapter follows a similar formula where it introduces a new sort of side character who has a pet that requires some sort of veterinary care. Based off the title and the covers, you could be fooled into thinking that this is very just all fluff and just everything's all goes according to plan. It's all about just cute little animals. But no, Yuzu the Pet Vet does not shy away from the harsh realities of what it truly means to own a pet, especially when that pet requires to go see a vet. That means, in case you didn't know, that the pet is in some way unwell, and sometimes that can be just a more minor thing, but sometimes it can be a major thing, and Yuzu the Pet Vet at times will force you, the reader, to face the harsh realities of life, and there's a lot of sadness in it. And that's where I felt, deeply connected to the book. Going into it, I did not expect to be tearing up by the end of just the first chapter, but you bet your ass I was. I think that's a strong point for the book. It is very emotional, and I think that's the thing with just animals in general. It's very easily for us to connect with them and sympathize with them and feel emotions towards them, even though, they're not an established character. It's a new animal introduced each chapter that we really know nothing about, but we're still able to connect because we, as humans, all love animals. And if you love animals, I think you can find some enjoyment in this book. If you're some sort of weird, sick psycho who hates animals, then yeah, you probably won't like this. But then, do you actually exist? Argue dog person or cat person, but is there anyone that hates both? If you despise both dogs and cats, of which a lot of the pet clientele will be dogs and cats because they are the most common sort of pets that people have. If you hate dogs and cats, then yes, you will hate this manga. But if you hate dogs and cats, you're a sick son of a bitch. Pet and vet rhyme. Whoa. It's very emotional a lot of the times. There's a lot of very intentional, tear-jerking moments littered throughout. In fact, I think, one minor criticism, it could almost be a little too much at times, a little too, on the nose with it, in a sense, if you get what I mean. It almost becomes too formulaic, where every chapter there's a problem, the owner kinda doesn't know how to deal with it or wants to reject it in a way, but Yuzu convinces them and they realise some of the errors in their ways and they get all teary-eyed and a big emotional moment as the problem is resolved. Kind of, sometimes not fully resolved, it might end in sadness, but they get that teary-eyed face and I like it. I like that. I think it is emotional. I think it does hit hard, but I think this is why this is one manga, for example, that I wouldn't necessarily recommend you binge read all 7 volumes. Maybe take your time with it. Read a volume here or there, or a few chapters here or there. Space it out. Read some other stuff in between. There's not really a super long, in-depth, overarching story that you really need to keep track of and binge read all at once so you don't forget anything. So you can read stuff in between, and I think that would enhance your experience, because if you read it all at once, it might start to get a little bit repetitive. Some of the story beats a little samey. Taking your time with it, not reading it all at once, I think might enhance your experience and enjoyment of reading Yuzu the Pet Fat. And now for something completely different. Ah! Hey Boots, listen. This is a episode about pets and vets. So, you know what I have to do. I just gotta check and make sure you're healthy. It's not what you think. I'm just gonna stick my whole arm up your ass. No, Boots, I don't want to hear it, Boots. This is happening. Don't try and resist. No, Boots, please. It's purely for health reasons this time, alright? It's happening. Alright, I'm going in. Mr. Brown! They don't call you Mr. Brown for nothing, do they? Let's just get this over with. Alright, so that was far too graphic to show on film, but it occurred to me while I was wrist deep in Mr. Brown, it dawned on me, I have no idea what the fuck I'm doing. Like, what am I supposed to be feeling for? Like, am I supposed to be checking if there's lumps or something? I have no idea how to check if they're healthy. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Like, when you go to a doctor and they stick a finger up your butt, what are they actually feeling for? I don't know. Maybe I could ask my uncle. He's not a doctor, but he used to just check I was healthy all the time when I was younger, so I'm going to ask him what he was checking for. It's a wholesome manga. Even though it doesn't shy away from harsh realities of life, it's still, most of the time, ultimately, pretty feel-good. It's not like a super dark, depressing read or nothing, but, you know, there will be a little bit of sadness, there will be some little bit of bittersweet moments. It ain't all sunshine and rainbows. Shit happens. Etc. Blah, 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 blah. I just think it's a really, you know, good read and some little thought-provoking moments along the way, and it's just an emotionally stimulating and satisfying read. The only really little bit of criticism I have is that sometimes maybe it's a little too direct and obvious in its attempt to jerk your tears out of your tear ducts, and can be at times a little bit, you know, formulaic in the way it tells the stories, but I think there's enough variety in the scenarios. Like, the scenarios really aren't similar that they face. Mingo Ito does a good job of creating many different scenarios that all feel different and have their own different unique problems to them, and these new side characters with, you know, different lifestyles and very different. So it does feel very different, the pets and the owners of the pets, but just the storyline beats and the way it plays out, problem resolution, could be a little bit formulaic, as I have said, especially if you read it all at once. So I recommend you take your time with it. Oh! Yeah, good catch, boy. Buddy styling on him up. There is a sequel that does not have an official English physical release as of yet. It seems to be set further in the future when she's a bit older, and I guess she's once again either helping out her uncle's vet clinic, or maybe it's further on and maybe it's when she's adult and she has her own vet clinic. I don't really know. I'm hoping Kardashian continues and releases that at some point, although I'm not sure what sales are like, but just based on Mal, not a lot of people have this on their list, according to the statistics, so maybe it's unlikely. I don't know, but I really love this one, and I would love to buy and read the continuation sequel, 3 volumes, so hopefully one day. Listen, we all love animals, and if you don't, fuck you, get the fuck out of here. If you like animals, Yuzu the Pet Vet. It's a nice little read. And it's not a big commitment. It's only 7 volumes, and you don't even need to read all 7 or get all 7 immediately before you start reading. Just buy the one, read a couple chapters, and you'll see what I mean. And you'll probably quite enjoy it, I would say. I think the first chapter is probably my favourite chapter, at least one of, and it does a really good job of just setting the scene and really setting up what the manga's going to be, and you can get a good sense for it just by reading the first chapter alone. And it was, the first chapter was a beautiful chapter. Tears. I need the tears when I read manga. It's the only way I know that I like it, when my eyes start to water and I can release the pain out, squeeze it out through my tears and feel them. I need it. I'm a sick son of a bitch. I crave it. And only certain mangas can get it out of me. And this is one of them. That's why I love it. It's one of the favourite things that I've read this year. Not my very favourite thing that I've read this year, but it's one of my favourite mangas that I've read for this year thus far. Anyways, I'm rambling. I mean, that's what I do, but I'm rambling, and I don't think there's anything more to it. So for a rating, I'll give it an 8.5 out of 10. And I guess that pretty much sums things up. So thanks for watching, and as always, it's
just another Tuesday.